morning. It is time to get up with a free agent feeding frenzy. The entire NBA reshaped right before our eyes. We will sort the whole thing out. Then, what now for Wentz? After surgery on his foot, can Carson's Colts stand pat, or do they need to deal for another quarterback? And then, it's Tampa Tom's 44th birthday. Wait until you hear how he chose to celebrate with his team. You will as we get up with you, starting right now on a Tuesday. Great to be back. Delighted to have you here. Delighted to have Tannenbaum here. Delighted to have them, Dan Orlovsky, Adam Schefter, already working the phone, fresh off the Peloton for 45 minutes and still schwitzing this morning is Adam Schefter. We'll get to all of that and more, but we begin with breaking news. Simone Biles and a triumphant return to the Olympics this morning. Biles won a bronze medal on the balance beam in her first competition since she withdrew from the women's team final last week, citing concerns for her mental health and physical safety. Biles displayed a slightly altered and less difficult routine than the one she performed during qualifying, but she was solid and finished third.
I'm pretty happy. I wasn't expecting to medal. I just came out here and just tried to do a good beam set. Yeah, well, to bring the topic of mental health, I think it should be talked about a lot more, especially with athletes, because I know some of us are going through the same things and we're always told to push through it, but we're all a little bit older now and we could kind of speak for ourselves. But at the end of the day, we're not just entertainment, we're humans, and there are things going on behind the scenes that we're also trying to juggle with as well, on top of sports.
So for Simone Biles, it's her 7th career Olympic medal. That ties Shannon Miller for the most by an American in gymnastics. It's just the latest in a long list of career accomplishments. She's the first woman to win 5 all-around world championship titles. Again, Simone Biles back on the beam today and taking the bronze. Now to the free agent frenzy in the NBA, where over $1.5 billion have already been spent while you were sleeping. One of the stars of the playoffs, Hawks guard Trae Young, agreed to a 5-year rookie max extension worth up to $207 million. Chris Paul, meanwhile, will stay with Phoenix. He has a new 4-year deal. Could be worth as much as $120 million. He's 36 years old. Of course, he led his team to the finals this year. And maybe the biggest free agent move so far coming in Miami. Kyle Lowry joining the Heat in a sign and trade deal. Miami also adding former Bucks forward PJ Tucker, and so the Heat trying to get themselves into a position where they can compete. And so let's go live to Tokyo, where the busiest man in the world is our NBA insider Brian Windhorst. I say the world literally, as he is a world away. Let's talk about the Heat now. We sometimes I feel like we've started looking at the East as though it's the Nets and the Bucks and that's it. Would you now put Miami in there as a legit contender with Kyle Lowry?
Yeah, they're right on the edge. I mean, Pat Riley has won so many free agent sweepstakes in his executive career, and here is another one. It's a huge addition for them. And not only that, it's going to really engage Jimmy Butler. I do think these two guys are going to work well together. But the Heat are not done. They have to fill up to 7 roster spots with minimum salaries. And they are going to be in a dogfight with the Lakers, who may have to sign up to 9 minimum salary players. So which role players are able to come and get those cheap deals is going to be important. And then they need their young players to elevate. Tyler Hero had a sophomore slump season. Yeah, Lowry and Butler are great. They brought Duncan Robinson back. They need Tyler Hero to play more like he did 2 years ago. Then you may have the package of a championship.
Well, you mentioned the Lakers. Let's talk about the moves that they made yesterday. You say they're going to have to fill out the roster with minimum salary players, but they brought back several familiar faces. How do they look right now, given how tied up they are financially?
They look old. They are arguably going to be one of the oldest championship contenders we've ever seen. They do say in the NBA, you win with men and not boys, but they may want to try to get a couple of boys because Talen Horton-Tucker is still out there. They've got to try to bring him back. This is what LeBron wants. LeBron wants to play with guys he's familiar with and guys he trusts. That's what the Lakers are delivering him. They don't need any more home runs. They've got stars in place, but they need some singles. They may have started hitting a couple yesterday, but they need some more.
All right, we'll see what they can do. In the meantime, while you were sleeping, not you, Wendy, but everybody watching was sleeping, Team USA beating Spain in the Olympics there. And so after something of a slow start for this team, both in the exhibition round and then losing the opener to France, does this team now appear to you destined to win the gold medal?
they're getting close. They're still not putting whole games together. They were down 10 points in the first quarter, or the first half in this one. But Kevin Durant has just been fantastic. Look, Greeny, he's the best American Olympian basketball player we've had. He's going to surpass Carmelo, I think. And he is adding to that case. He had 29 points in this one. And even if they're not great, Durant makes them great when he keeps playing like this. If he's got 2 more in the chamber like this, they're going to take gold.
We'll see what happens. Again, Wendy is a man who has not slept in an awful long time. Thank you very much for staying up and getting up here with all the latest on the NBA, Wendy. Meanwhile, to the NFL and an update on Carson Wentz. Yesterday, Colts head coach Frank Reich revealed that Wentz will require surgery on his injured foot. He'll be sidelined somewhere from 5 to 12 weeks, which, as many pointed out yesterday, is quite the wide delta. Here's more from the Colts coach.
Yeah, I think it was a gut punch for him for about 2 hours. Just knowing Carson, I'm optimistic. Knowing that this is a type of injury you don't have to be pain-free to play in. And I know Carson's level of toughness. I know he can play with pain. So, you have, with this injury, from listening to the doctors, you have to get to an acceptable level of pain, and then you can start playing. So that could happen early.
Let's bear in mind, early is important for this team. Look at the first 5 games for the Colts this year. That is the proverbial murderer's row. And if they have to do some of it, much less all of it, without their starting quarterback, that obviously would be of significant concern. So again, let's dive into that here. Mike Tannenbaum in the studio, Dan Orlovsky ready to go. But Schefter, I will start with you. What more can you tell us about the injury, about the surgery, and about anything about as quickly he can come back?
The surgery was performed yesterday, Greeny. Dr. David Porter, who is on the Colts staff, performed the surgery in Indianapolis. And now the Colts will wait to see how Carson Wentz responds over the next 2 weeks before making any decisions about whether or not they need another quarterback on their roster. Right now, their plan is to go with the former 4th-round draft pick, Jacob Eason, and then have Wentz come back as soon as he possibly can. And they have not ruled out the idea that he could be back for the Week 1 regular season opener, as unlikely as that may seem right now for somebody who has been as fragile as Carson Wentz. But they're not giving up hope. They still think there's a chance he could be back. So all this talk about Nick Foles and Marcus Mariota and any other quarterback that's out there right now, that should be tabled and shelved for the time being. Their plan as it stands is to go with Jacob Eason until Carson Wentz can come back. They think it'll be on the shorter side rather than the longer side. We'll see how he responds to this surgery, and then they'll make their decision going forward.
All right, so anyone who watches this show, the first person that comes to their mind when you hear the words Carson Wentz is Dan Orlovsky. Dan, we were all worried about you on Friday as this news was breaking. What is your, you heard what Schefter just said. You see the situation as it stands. What is your perspective?
Yeah, shout out to Schefter for actually getting the story right, Greeny. I'm going to channel my inner Aaron Rodgers, okay? RELAX. Everybody relax. Number 1 question. Do the Colts believe it's going to be closer to 5 weeks or 12 weeks? Schefter just told us they think it's going to be closer to 5 weeks. So if he might miss a couple games, right? That does not have a significant impact on their season. 17-game season, 7 teams in the playoffs. Number 2, what does Jacob Eason look like? Schefter referenced the 4th-round pick from last year. Because if we were looking at this football team in a blind resume, right? Jacob Eason is a young player from Washington. I'll tell you one thing, big arm. Big, powerful, strong arm that can push it downfield. Blind resume of this football team, Greeny. This is a football team that has a great defense. Why does that matter for a young quarterback? I don't have to go score 30 points to go win a game. It has a great offensive line. I don't have to play fast and potentially panic with the football. It has a very good run game. I could turn around and hand it off a little bit. Good skill position players, great coaching. If we were just looking at this blindly and Carson Wentz's name wasn't attached to it, we would go, this is a good place for a young quarterback to go play. And that's why you don't have to panic if Jacob Eason has to go play a couple games. And I would say this about Carson Wentz. 1, you owe the organization, the general manager and the head coach, you owe them to go and play tough. When you come back, and because it sounds like this is not a performance-hindering injury, this sounds like it is a pain tolerance injury, in their words, he does owe it to them to go play tough because they stuck their necks out there for him. Go play tough. Go earn the respect of your football team and go play well doing so. But the Colts just need to be patient.
Okay, so patience is something that is frequently in short supply when you are the general manager of a football team, which you've been in 2 different cases. So Dan Orlovsky is saying to relax. If you were sitting where Chris Ballard is sitting right now, would you be relaxed?
No, I'm doing the exact opposite. And here's why, Greeny. I have literally looked around the world for the best experts in performance, and the number one factor in assessing the risk if a player is going to get hurt is their past history. And the reality is Carson Wentz has finished 1 season healthy as a quarterback where he started the season and ended the season. And therefore, based on those facts, Greeny, we can't relax. That's just the truth of it. We saw San Francisco do it. They had a fragile Jimmy Garoppolo. They traded up for Trey Lance.